Teachings of Lord Caitanya by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda.
Chapter 30. The Transcendental Pastimes of Rādhā and Krishna. The difference between executing ordinary religious activities and devotional service is very great. By executing religious rituals, one can achieve economic development, sense gratification, or liberation, merging into the existence of the Supreme. But the results of transcendental devotional service are completely different from such temporary benefits. Devotional service of the Lord is evergreen, and it is increasingly transcendentally pleasing. Thus, there is a gulf of difference between the results derived from devotional service and those derived from religious rituals. The great spiritual energy known as Jadadishtatri, or Mahamaya, the superintendent of the material world, and the material departmental directors, the demigods, as well as the products of the external energy of the Supreme Lord, are but perverted reflections of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. The demigods are actually order carriers of the Supreme Lord, and they help manage the material creation. In Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the workings of the supremely powerful superintendent, Durga, are but shadowy indications of the workings of the Supreme Lord. The sun works just like the eye of the Supreme Lord, and Brahma works just as the reflected light of the Supreme Lord. Thus, all the demigods, as well as the external energy herself, Durga Devi, and all the different departmental directors, are but servants of the Supreme Lord in the material world. In the spiritual world, there is another energy, the superior spiritual energy, or internal energy, which acts under the direction of Yogamaya. Yogamaya is the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. She also works under the Lord's direction, but she works in the spiritual world. When the living entity puts himself under the direction of Yogamaya instead of Mahamaya, he gradually becomes a devotee of Krishna. Yet those who are after material opulence and material happiness place themselves under the care of the material energy, Mahamaya, or under the care of material demigods like Lord Shiva and others. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is found that when the gopis of Vrindavan desired Krishna as their husband, they prayed to the spiritual energy, Yogamaya, for the fulfillment of their desire. In the Sapti Shati, it is found that King Surata and a merchant named Samadhi worshipped Mahamaya for material opulence. Thus, one should not mistakenly equalize Yogamaya and Mahamaya. Because the Lord is on the absolute platform, there is no difference between the holy name of the Lord and the Supreme Lord himself. There are different names for the Supreme Lord, and these names have different purposes and meanings. For instance, he is known as Paramatma, the Supersoul, Brahman, the Supreme Absolute, Srishtikarta, the Creator, Narayan, the Transcendental Lord, Rukmini Ramana, the husband of Rukmini, Gopinath, the enjoyer of the gopis, and Krishna. In this way, the Lord has different names, and these names indicate different functions. The aspect of the Supreme Lord as the Creator is different from the aspect of the Lord as Narayan. Some of the names of the Lord as the Creator are conceived by materialistic men. One cannot fully realize the essence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by understanding the name of the Creator, because this material creation is a function of the external energy of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the conception of God as the Creator includes only the external feature. Similarly, when we call the Supreme Lord Brahman, we cannot have any understanding of the six opulences of the Supreme Lord. In Brahman realization, the six opulences are not realized in full. Therefore, Brahman realization is not complete understanding of the Supreme Lord. Neither is Paramatma realization, realization of the Supersoul, full realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for the all-pervading nature of the Supreme Lord is but a partial representation of his opulence. Even the transcendental relationship experienced by a devotee of Narayan in Vaikuntha is incomplete, in that it is not realization of a relationship with Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. The devotees of Krishna do not relish devotional service to Narayan because devotional service to Krishna is so attractive that Krishna's devotees do not desire to worship any other form. Thus, the gopis of Vrindavan do not like to see Krishna as the husband of Rukmini, nor do they address him as Rukmini Ramana. In Vrindavan, Krishna is addressed as Radha Krishna, or Krishna, the property of Radharani. Although the husband of Rukmini and Radha's Krishna are on the same level in the ordinary sense, still in the spiritual world, the names indicate different understandings of various aspects of Krishna's transcendental personality. If one equalizes Rukmini Ramana, Radha Ramana, Narayan, or any other name of the Supreme Lord, he commits the fault of overlapping tastes, which is technically called rasa bas. Those who are expert devotees do not accept such amalgamations, which are against the conclusions of pure devotional service. Although Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, embodies all super-excellence and beauty, when he is amongst the damsels of Braja, he is known as Gopi Janavallabha. The devotees cannot relish the beauty of the Supreme Lord more than the damsels of Braja. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is confirmed that although Krishna, the son of Devaki, is the last word in super-excellence and beauty, when he is amongst the gopis, it appears that he is a sublime jewel set amongst divine golden craftsmanship. Although Lord Caitanya accepted this as the highest realization of the Supreme Lord as conjugal lover, he nonetheless requested Ramananda Roy to proceed further. Upon hearing this request, Ramananda Roy remarked that this was the first time that he had been asked to go further than the gopis in an attempt to understand Krishna. There is certainly transcendental intimacy between the damsels of Braja and Krishna, Ramananda pointed out. But out of all the relationships, the relationship between Radharani and Krishna in conjugal love is the most perfect. No common man can understand the ecstasy of transcendental love between Radharani and Krishna, nor can he understand the transcendental flavor of the transcendental love between Krishna and the gopis. Yet if one tries to follow in the footsteps of the gopis, he may become situated in the highest stage of transcendental love. Thus, one who wants to be elevated to the transcendental stage of perfection should follow in the footsteps of the damsels of Braja as an assistant maidservant of the gopis. Lord Caitanya exhibited the mode of Srimati Radharani when she was contacted from Dwarka by Sri Krishna. Such transcendental love is not possible for any common man. Therefore, one should not imitate the highest perfectional stage exhibited by Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. If, however, one desires to be in that association, he may follow in the footsteps of the gopis. In the Padma Purana, it is stated that just as Radharani is dear to Krishna, similarly the Kunda, known as Radhakund, is also very dear to him. Radharani is the only gopi who is dearer to Krishna than all the other gopis. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also stated that Radharani and the gopis render the highest perfectional loving service to the Lord, and that the Lord is so pleased with them that he does not wish to leave the company of Srimati Radharani. When Lord Caitanya heard Ramananda Roy speak of the loving affairs between Krishna and Radharani, he said, "Please go further, go on and on." The Lord also said that he was enjoying with great relish the descriptions of the loving affairs between Krishna and the gopis. "It is as if a river of nectar is flowing from your lips," he said. Ramananda Roy continued to point out that when Krishna danced amongst the gopis, he thought, "I am not giving any special attention to Radharani." Because amongst the other gopis, Radharani was not so much an object of special love, Krishna stole her away from the area of the rasa dance and showed her special favor. After explaining this to Lord Caitanya, Ramananda Roy said, "Now let us relish the transcendental loving affairs between Krishna and Radha. These have no comparison in this material world." Ramananda Roy thus continued his descriptions. During one performance of the rasa dance, Radharani suddenly left the area as if she were angry that no special attention was being shown her. Krishna was desirous of seeing Radharani in order to fulfill the purpose of the rasa dance, but not seeing Radharani there, he became very sorrowful and went to search her out. In Gita Govinda, there is a verse which states that the enemy of Kamsa, Krishna, also wanted to be entangled in love affairs with women, and thus simply took Radharani away and left the company of the other damsels of Braja. Krishna was very much afflicted by Radharani's absence, and, being thus mentally distressed, began to search her out along the banks of the Jamuna. Failing to find her, he entered the bushes of Vrindavan and began to lament. Ramananda Roy pointed out that when one discusses the purport of these two special verses of Gita Govinda, he can relish the highest nectar of Krishna's and Radha's loving affairs. Although there were many gopis to dance with Krishna, Krishna especially wanted to dance with Radharani. In the rasa dance, Krishna expanded himself and placed himself between every two gopis, but he was especially present with Radharani. However, Radharani was not pleased with Krishna's behavior. As described in Ujjvala Nilamani, the path of loving affairs is just like the movement of a snake. Amongst young lovers, there are two kinds of mentality, causeless and causal. Thus, when Radharani left the area of the rasa dance out of anger at not receiving special treatment, Krishna became very sorrowful to see her absent. The perfection of the rasa dance was considered to be complete due to Radharani's presence, and in her absence, Krishna considered the dance to be disrupted. Therefore, he left the arena to search her out. When he could not find Radharani after wandering in several places, he became very distressed. Thus, it is understood that Krishna could not enjoy his pleasure potency even in the midst of all the gopis. But in the presence of Radharani, he was satisfied. When this transcendental love between Radharani and Krishna was described by Ramananda Roy, Lord Caitanya admitted, "I came to you to understand the transcendental loving affairs between Krishna and Radha, and now I am very satisfied that you have described them so nicely. I can understand from your version that this is the highest loving state between Krishna and Radha." Yet, Lord Caitanya still requested Ramananda Roy to explain something more. What are the transcendental features of Krishna and Radharani? And what are the transcendental features of the reciprocation of their feelings? And what is the love between them? If you kindly describe all this to me, I will be very much obliged. But for you, no one can describe such things. "I do not know anything," Ramananda Roy replied in all humility. "I am simply saying what you are causing me to say. I know that you are Krishna himself, yet you are relishing hearing about Krishna from me. Therefore, please excuse me for my faulty expression. I am just trying to express whatever you are causing me to express." "I am a Mayavadi sannyasi," Lord Caitanya protested. "I have no knowledge of the transcendental features of devotional service. By the greatness of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, my mind has become clear, and I am now trying to understand the nature of devotional service to Lord Krishna. Bhattacharya recommended that I see you in order to understand Krishna. Indeed, he said that Ramananda Roy is the only person who knows something about love of Krishna. Therefore, I have come to you upon the recommendation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Please then do not hesitate to relate to me all the confidential affairs between Radha and Krishna." In this way, Lord Caitanya actually took the subordinate position before Ramananda Roy. This has very great significance. If one is serious about understanding the transcendental nature of Krishna, he should approach a person who is actually enriched with Krishna consciousness. One should not be proud of his material birth, material opulence, material education, and beauty, and with these things try to conquer the mind of an advanced student of Krishna consciousness. One who thus goes to a Krishna-conscious person, thinking that he would be favorably induced, is deluded about this science. One should approach a Krishna-conscious person with all humility and put relevant questions to him. If one goes to challenge him, such a highly elevated Krishna-conscious person would not be available for any service. A challenging, puffed-up person cannot gain anything from a Krishna-conscious man. He would simply remain in material consciousness. Although Lord Caitanya was born in a high Brahmin family and was situated in the highest perfectional stage of sannyas, he nonetheless showed by his behavior that even an elevated person would not hesitate to take lessons from Ramananda Roy, although Ramananda appeared as a householder situated in a social status beneath that of a Brahmin. Thus, Lord Caitanya clearly showed that a sincere student never cares whether his spiritual master is born in a high Brahmin family or a Kshatriya family, or whether he is a sannyasi, brahmachari, or whatever. Whoever can teach one about the science of Krishna is to be accepted as guru.